The world loves comeback stories. Few were bigger than his. At just 25 years old, Lance Armstrong was diagnosed with advanced testicular cancer. The disease had already spread to his lungs and even his brain. Many doubted he would survive, but he did. After months of surgery and chemotherapy, he returned to professional cycling, not just to compete, to dominate. Over the next 7 years, Armstrong won 7 consecutive Tour de France titles. He became more than an athlete. He became a symbol of hope. Millions wore the yellow Livestrong bracelet. Presidents praised him. Sponsors lined up to work with him. His story reached far beyond cycling. Cancer patients wrote him letters. Parents told their children about his determination. To millions of people, Lance Armstrong wasn't simply a champion. He became proof that hope could overcome impossible odds. Fans believed they were watching one of the greatest athletes in history. It was one of the most inspiring stories in sports, until everything fell apart, because Lance Armstrong wasn't remembered for surviving cancer, or even for winning 7 tours. He was remembered for one lie. To understand why, we have to go back to the beginning. Long before the championships, long before the investigations, long before Oprah, Armstrong was already one of America's brightest young cyclists, aggressive, fearless, obsessed with winning. Then, in 1996, everything changed. Doctors discovered an aggressive cancer that had spread throughout his body. Most believed his career was over. Some feared his life was too. Instead, it became the beginning of the greatest comeback in sports. In 1999, Armstrong won his first Tour de France, then another and another. By 2005, he had won 7 in a row. His story became bigger than cycling. He represented hope. He convinced millions that impossible odds could be overcome. The higher he climbed, the harder it became to imagine him falling. But behind the victories, questions had already begun to surface. Rumors spread through professional cycling. Journalists asked difficult questions. Former teammates began telling different stories. Armstrong denied every accusation, every single one. He insisted he had never cheated, and millions believed him. After all, why would a cancer survivor who inspired the world risk everything? That question protected him for years, until it didn't. For years, the accusations came and went. Armstrong didn't just deny them. He fought back. Critics were attacked. Former teammates were called liars. Some faced lawsuits. Others were pushed out of the sport. The legend had become too valuable to lose, not only for Lance, but for sponsors, for charities, for fans. Every victory made the story harder to question. Every denial made the truth harder to admit. For years, the accusations never completely disappeared. They simply became harder to ignore. Each investigation uncovered new questions. Each denial bought him a little more time. But time was running out. Then everything changed. Former teammate Floyd Landis decided to tell investigators everything he knew. His testimony encouraged others to speak. Rumors slowly became evidence. In 2012, the United States Anti-Doping Agency concluded that Armstrong had participated in one of the most sophisticated doping programs in sports history. Soon after, he was stripped of all 7 Tour de France titles. He was banned from cycling for life. The greatest comeback story in sports had become one of its greatest scandals. Yet Armstrong still refused to confess. Months later, he finally sat down with Oprah Winfrey. For the first time, he admitted using performance-enhancing drugs throughout his tour victories. The confession shocked millions, not because people had never suspected the truth, but because the man who inspired the world had spent years denying it. Looking back, it wasn't the drugs that destroyed Lance Armstrong's legacy. Professional cycling was already battling doping. What made his story different was the decision to protect the myth at any cost. Every denial, every attack, every lawsuit, every attempt to silence those who questioned him. The lie became bigger than the victories. His Tour de France titles disappeared from the record books. Sponsors walked away. His reputation collapsed almost overnight. But the greatest loss wasn't the trophies. It was the trust of millions who had believed every word. Lance Armstrong survived cancer. He conquered mountains most people never dared to climb. He inspired millions. His victories made him a champion. But protecting those victories cost him his legacy. Because sometimes, one mistake doesn't destroy a legacy. The decision to protect that mistake does. And once the truth finally catches up, there's no finish line left to cross. And that's how one bad decision changed everything.